the topic which I wanted to cover mainly here is related to the so related to the like migrating your financial systems to your cloud. So when I joined JP Morgan Chase, right? So we were still using very old infrastructure, or you can say the whole systems. The whole systems very old. We were using the Java 6, and then we were still using the old methods for deployment. So which we have to run multiple scripts to complete a deployment, which was very challenging. For some reason, for some multiple reasons, right? Not for one, multiple reasons. Multiple teams have not moved to their new infrastructure because they wanted to keep their legacy systems well and going. So that's where I actually joined the team. That's where so I worked on that team for almost 2.5 years. So the first 3-4 months we were actually I went through this painful strategy, like deploying this for each deployment, right? We have to run multiple scripts, and I went through that pain. And then what we have done is, so we have, as a team, I've initiated the conversation where we move to the new systems. I know that it has to take a lot of infrastructure changes, and it is a big roadmap, not to which can be done in 3 to 6 months. It takes up nearly 3 to 4 quarters, which is nearly a year and a half. So, but we were very persistent on getting our changes done, and wanted to move our systems. So that's how I started this migration to a finance to the cloud. So initially, what we have done is I've designed a roadmap, and which contains all the development changes, architectural changes, infrastructure changes, and what we have to do, where. So once the road plan is discussed, we went to our DevOps team and told them that, hey, this is what we want to do, and whether Chase is giving the infrastructure what we have, or is there any infrastructure that Chase is giving which we can utilize already. So I always try to go for the resources that the company is already giving, instead of we getting a new purchases, right? So that in that way we can save millions of dollars in terms of our budget as well. So that's what I've so the main thing is that I took the resources that were available and made a significant growth with that. So that is yeah. So coming first after that, right, we got the roadmap, and then we have designed our goals for the quarter. So we work towards our goals for each quarter. So we didn't change our systems completely. So we kept our old systems running and moving forward. But this one we built from our but the new systems, what we did is we built from scratch. So in that way, we keep our old systems running, and we make sure that the traffic is already there, and we don't have any other issues, and our application is on 24. So for that, right, and we wanted to so previously it was just a normal deployment, but here I wanted to do is I wanted to go with the blue green strategy. So where the blue, so if you know the blue green strategy, right, where so the blue takes a lot of traffic, and then once the deployment is if the deployment is to be done on the green, so the blue takes the traffic. So once the deployment is done on the green, so the traffic gets diverted to the green, and the blue remains in stagnant stage, and the next deployment will be on the blue. So in that way, your system will be up 24 hours. Like you'll have no downtime. So that is one of the strategies which we wanted to do. And we were using bare metals in terms of servers, right? Not bare metals. We were actually using them manually in the old methodology. So here we went to the Kubernetes. We went to the Kubernetes concept, where we actually created our own nodes, pools, and pods. So we went with that strategy, where so that will help us with auto scaling as well, which would save us a lot of money in terms of our actual human actual resources. So that was that is our step one, to get all our cloud infrastructure back and up and running. So once that is done, then we thought of going into the development changes, like I mean the backend servers and then our database changes, to migrate them completely into our cloud. And then so once those are done, I think the UI is the last step where we have done. So the UI part is a little bit easier when compared to other things, because most of the HTML code remains same. But the thing is that they were using jQuery before, and then I've helped them develop into Angular and Node.js. So most of the applications were developed in Angular, but there was some of the applications that moved into Node.js. Yeah. So those were the goals which we had, and the first goal was as part of the first thing, right? So what we did we, based on the data we had from the previous application, from the previous of our application, we took how much load we'd be expecting, and based on that, we scaled up our pools and nodes. It was all data driven, not in terms of assumptions. So with the data driven, what happened is, in that way, we were able to analyze the incoming traffic before itself, and based on that, we were able to scroll. In that way, we were saving many resources. Yeah, so the problem with that is, in many financial institutions, the legacy applications takes a lot of toggle to actually for us to migrate into the new systems. But we have to, the best strategy I would say is to build it from scratch and keep the old application running until you have everything stable in the new one. So once everything is stable, right, then you start preparing the rollout plan. So that you'll be first diverting your 15% of traffic, and then 30%, and then you increase it to 70, and then you completely migrate it. So that is one of the strategies we have to follow while we completely roll out to the new legacy to the new finance to the new methods. Yeah. So yeah, the main the main reason, the main reasons why we have to migrate it. So they, in sometimes, right, like example, like when you say Thanksgiving, or sometimes you, the credit card, we try to do the credit card transactions go up very high. So in that times, the old scale, right, with the old systems, we tend to have multiple issues. But if we have this auto scaling or scalability issues that are already fine tuned with the new systems, so that will automatically based on that, based on your traffic, will scale up your host, and you can actually divert the traffic in all the hosts and not increase it any load on any particular instance. So that way, you will be increasing your scalability, and the efficiency of your system will be completely increased with that approach. So that is why where the Kubernetes plays a big role. So the implementation of Kubernetes is very pretty straightforward. What we have done is we use Terraform to actually create our applications and then migrate it to Kubernetes. So EKS was the major. So we were actually Amazon shop. So we were using most of the AWS services that we would have. Yeah, and the cost efficiency. Coming to the cost efficiency, right? So we were actually using so much of bare metals before, where we deployed our hosts and the lot of getting your server to host application. So all the 7 layers of application layer has to be done. So in that way, with the cost efficient, so if you go to the Kubernetes or if you migrate to the new systems, so most of the resources are already done by AWS. You just pay for what you have used. Not only AWS, any cloud. So that is where your cloud actually comes in. It on the long run, it saves you multiple millions of dollars. Let's say if tomorrow, if there is a new region that has been added, or some other thing that has been added, which you are actually using that application, instead of going and getting actually a new bare metal, you can just upgrade your whole in number of instances with very less cost. So that way also you can save a lot of money. Yeah. So, and the improved security is already there. We've implemented so the database token was there actually, but it was only doing for UI. But what we have done is we have included those JWT token other instances in our backend servers, in our backend code as well. So once you authenticate, we've actually used that MFA as well. So which would make your job much easier. So in that way also we have moved from the old security as constraints to the new one. So that makes your application more reliable and secure. Yeah. So coming to the business continuity, right? So as I told you, so the business continuity, you keep your applications running. So as a developer, I always think about this one. I should not have any downtime even when migrating. So that is my main goal. Because if there is a downtime, or if a customer faces anything, that's where I think as a team we have we have to be more clever on doing that. So that is where we came up with this approach, where we actually roll back in different phases, migrate in different phases rather than completely migrating in a single phase. So in that way, you'll have your both the systems up and running, and you'll have the business continuity. The customer will not face anything, and you'll have the business continuity. And the main problem I faced across this while migrating is that so there was no proper documentation what we have done before for the whole previous application. So this is your chance to actually document everything on what you're doing. So that will actually help the next coming team, next incoming person to your team also will be helpful. So this type of documentation when you do, right? So you have your Jiras, you have your conferences, or you have whatever tools you use, right? Try to document everything on each phase, what you have done, what are your goals, how you have developed it, what is the strategy you have done. So you have to do the star approach there. What is your situation? What are the tasks you had, and how would you approach it? And what was the result you have done? So in that way, the next developer who comes in, right, is ready to go. He can come and follow the documentation and actually take off from where we have left. So in that way, so the documentation, I made sure that the documentation was in place for everything what we have done. So that's something which I wanted to let you know. So that comes under as a business continuity as well. So that is something I've done. And then accelerating innovation. So in future we are now moving into the cloud world. So in future, so there are a lot of service everybody is developing right now, and even our DevOps team was developing a couple of services that we will actually make our much job easier, like let's say the deployment thing. So now what we have done is, so we give them the flock version, the artifact version which we want to deploy, and we tell them the date and this thing, and we give them the test suite that we need to run. So that actually take care of everything. And we schedule it, and that actually does the deployment and everything. Yeah, sometimes it requires a human intervention, but it's not the end of the world, where our developer will actually come in and uh, check what is the issue that is happening, that is actually failing a deployment, or if there is anything that is missing. So that's why we always do with the prod staging first, which is similar to our prod. We do there and we make sure that everything is fine. And then once that is done, then we go to the prod. So yeah, accelerating innovation is uh, yeah, so we can actually embed new services that are coming to the cloud, and new security constraints, new concepts of scalable, auto scaling and everything. Yeah, so that is acceleration innovation. Yeah. So the main challenges I faced as part of the cloud migration is data. So we were using the Oracle PL SQL. So in that scenario, I would say we were lucky. So the migration didn't actually take a lot of effort from us. Uh, so we were able to secure and everything. But but in general, when we are doing the data migration, right, we have to make sure that we have the right plan, data lakes and data pools, that we are actually moving our data from one database to, we send it to our data lake and data pool, and then we move it to a strategy, we move it to a new database with a good strategy. So that there are multiple strategies that we followed as part of the day, transferring of data from one DB to another DB. But the main thing is that you make sure that your data lakes and data pools are good, and you have a certain rules that are already predefined set up, so that you'll not be losing any data by migrating it. So, and you always have your backup. So the basic 101s are already there while you're migrating. So that is the first one. And the complexity, yeah. So the complexity of legacy systems, you know how the legacy systems are built in. So they still use the old strategies of even the workflows. Some of the workflows are still designed by using mainframes, and also you have to understand how they are implemented and why they are implemented before you are actually doing it. So if if you have any doubts, feel free to go back to the documentation. If you have the documentation, feel free to go back to them and understand it completely before you move your everything, move your legacy to the new migrating system. If there is not, have discuss with few the team members that are previous there, or discuss with the teams that are actually working, get more detailed information, and then start migrating into the new systems before, without understanding the complexity. So once you do that, right, then you come up with the strategy of how we are going to implement this, and what are the backdrops, what will be the backdrops, and what where will you check once and twice for where you'll have this data leaks and data w- of cause of any bugs or any issues, right? So you'll understand while you do this. So the through process is while planning itself. So that is where you'll have the complete idea. Yes, there might be some issues coming up in future when I am actually migrate when actually doing it in migration, but that we can accommodate if we have the right plan. So that is what the main system is. Yeah, so integration with existing ecosystem. So as part of the migration, if you move all your systems, then I think it is much easier. But if not, we can. So if some other team is using the legacy system, then we can find out what actually service they are using and how we can embed it with our migration. So in that way, you will understand how we can engage with other teams and the documentation which you are providing, right? So which you are creating, right? So that will come very useful when you are actually integrating with the existing ecosystems as well. So that is something which I faced with the old ones, and I wanted to replace it with the new one. So downtime and business continuity, we already discussed. So we did it in the phase wise. So that actually saved us a lot of time in our cloud migration. Yeah. So first, the main reason why Chase was resistant into the change was so they had done it in a particular manner, which cost them heavily at that time when they were building it in 2009 and 2010, and they wanted to keep the systems in that way. But I felt that after 10 years, we have improved it a lot, and I think we could get the cost to very low in a very less price, and that could save us millions. And that strategy actually gave us assurance and using the resources that in-house that are provided in-house, right? So that helped us a lot in moving out to the new migration, as part of the cloud migration.
Um,
Yeah.
Sandeep, how many more slides do you have?
I think I'll just conclude.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah. So I know this is a challenging process while we are actually moving our systems from legacy to new cloud, but the cloud is a way forward. And then so it with the migration of cloud, right, it makes our jobs uh, much easier, and it takes less effort when compared to the old ones, and it increases your security and every other things. So I have my blog, I have my you can reach out to me LinkedIn whenever if you have any issues with. I can go in more detail about everything. You can reach out to me in LinkedIn. I can help you out if there are any issues, and I can give you more detailed approach on how I have done, how I can go into more detail on each approach on how I analyzed. Yeah. So yeah, that is it for the. Please, any questions? Let me know.